Imagine a shepherd, young and restless, searching for a lost goat along the desolate cliffs overlooking the Dead Sea. It's 1947. He idly tosses a rock into a dark cave opening, and instead of the expected thud, he hears the sharp, surprising shatter of pottery. What he and his cousins would discover inside that cave, and 10 others nearby, would ignite one of the greatest archaeological firestorms of the 20th century. They had stumbled upon ancient jars, and inside, wrapped in linen, were scrolls of leather and papyrus, texts that had lain hidden for nearly 2,000 years. These weren't just old documents. They were a direct link to a pivotal moment in human history, a time when Judaism was evolving and Christianity was being born. This is the story of the Dead Sea Scrolls, a discovery that would challenge our understanding of the Bible, reveal a lost world of ancient beliefs, and pit scholars against each other in a race to unlock secrets frozen in time. The initial discovery was just the beginning. The scrolls, purchased from the Bedouins for a pittance, began a clandestine journey through antique markets in Bethlehem. It was only when they reached the hands of scholars like Eleazar Sukenik at the Hebrew University that their true significance started to dawn. He recognized the ancient Hebrew script immediately. Some texts were copies of books from the Hebrew Bible, but they were 1,000 years older than any version known to exist. It was like finding an original draft of the Constitution. But other scrolls were completely unknown, describing the rules, rituals, and radical beliefs of a mysterious Jewish community that had vanished from history. Who were these people, living an ascetic life in the desert, and what secrets did they guard so fiercely that they hid them from the Roman armies? The race was on to find more. Archaeologists and Bedouins alike began a frantic search of the cliffs around the site known as Qumran. Over the next decade, 10 more caves yielded their treasures, producing a library of over 900 different manuscripts, many in thousands of tiny, fragile fragments. It was a jigsaw puzzle of epic proportions. The texts were written in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, and they fell into 3 main categories: biblical manuscripts, copies of books like Isaiah, Deuteronomy, and the Psalms; apocryphal texts, which were works not included in the official Bible but known from other sources; and finally, the most exciting of all, the sectarian texts. These documents were the community's own rule books, their war plans, their prophecies, and their hymns. They called themselves the Community of the Covenant, and their writings painted a picture of a group that believed the world was corrupt, the temple priests in Jerusalem were illegitimate, and that a final apocalyptic war between the sons of light and the sons of darkness was imminent. They were preparing for the end of the world. So, who were these mysterious desert dwellers? The leading theory points to a group known as the Essenes, a Jewish sect described by ancient historians like Josephus and Pliny the Elder. Their descriptions of a communal pious group living near the Dead Sea, shunning wealth and practicing ritual purity, match the lifestyle described in the scrolls with astonishing accuracy. The Qumran community was led by a figure they called the Teacher of Righteousness, a messianic priest who had broken away from the Jerusalem establishment. They saw him as a divinely inspired interpreter of the prophets, and they followed his teachings with absolute devotion. Their lives were meticulously organized, with strict rules for meals, prayer, and study. They practiced daily ritual immersions in water, a form of baptism, not for a one-time conversion, but for ongoing spiritual purity. This detail became incredibly significant when scholars began looking for connections to another famous figure who emerged from the Judean desert. That figure, of course, was John the Baptist. The New Testament describes him preaching a message of repentance and baptism in the very same wilderness, at the very same time the Qumran community was active. The parallels are striking. Like the Essenes, John was an ascetic, he criticized the temple leadership, and he preached of a coming judgment. Could John have been an Essene, or at least heavily influenced by their teachings? The scrolls provide no direct mention of him, but the circumstantial evidence is powerful. Similarly, the teachings and language found in the scrolls resonate with early Christianity. Concepts like righteousness, light versus darkness, and the expectation of a Messiah, or in the community's case, 2 Messiahs, one priestly and one royal, were central to their worldview. The scrolls don't mention Jesus, but they provide the Jewish context from which his movement emerged. They show us that many of the ideas we associate with early Christianity were already circulating in the vibrant, diverse world of Second Temple Judaism. One of the most spectacular finds was the copper scroll. Unlike the others, this text wasn't written on leather or papyrus, but was engraved on a thin sheet of copper, and its contents were not religious. It was a treasure map. The scroll lists 64 locations where staggering amounts of gold and silver were supposedly hidden. We're talking tons of precious metals, a treasure so vast it could only have come from a national treasury, perhaps even the legendary Temple of Jerusalem itself, hidden away before the Romans destroyed it in 70 AD. Was it real, or was it folklore? To this day, despite numerous attempts, not a single item from the Copper Scroll's inventory has been found. The locations are described with landmarks that have long since vanished, like the Aqueduct of the North, or in the Cave of the Old Washhouse. It remains one of the Dead Sea Scrolls' most tantalizing and unsolved mysteries. The process of piecing together the scrolls was agonizingly slow, leading to decades of academic controversy and even conspiracy theories. For years, a small exclusive team of international scholars controlled access to the unpublished fragments. Outsiders accused them of hoarding the scrolls, and some even claimed they were hiding information that would shatter the foundations of Judaism and Christianity. The press called it the academic scandal of the century. The truth was more mundane but no less frustrating. The team was simply overwhelmed by the sheer volume and fragility of the fragments. It wasn't until the 1990s, after a public outcry, that a full photographic library of the scrolls was released, allowing a new generation of scholars worldwide to finally access these ancient texts. So, what have we learned? The Dead Sea Scrolls have revolutionized our understanding of the Bible's history. The biblical texts found at Qumran proved that the Old Testament had been copied with incredible accuracy for over 1,000 years, but they also revealed minor variations and different versions of biblical books, showing that the text was more fluid in this early period than previously thought. They opened a window into a lost world, revealing the intense spiritual fervor and diversity of thought within Judaism, just before and during the time of Jesus. They didn't provide the bombshells the conspiracy theorists had hoped for, but they gave us something far more valuable: context. They show us that the ideas that changed the world didn't appear in a vacuum. They grew out of the rich, fertile, and often contentious soil of the Judean desert. From a shepherd's lucky throw to a global academic pursuit, the Dead Sea Scrolls continue to reveal their secrets, reminding us that sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden in the most desolate of places, waiting for centuries to tell their story. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey back in time. If you found this story as fascinating as we do, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel for more historical deep dives, and ring the bell so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.